Good morning or good afternoon. Greetings from New York City. My name is Chia-Ying Pan. I'm the Director of Education, Outreach, and International Student Support at the Office of Multicultural Affairs under the Undergraduate Student Life. Here with me is my colleague from ISSO, International Students and Scholar Office. Michelle is going to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Desikan. I'm one of the International Student Advisors from the ISSO. And I'm very happy to be here today to tell you about your immigration, to answer any questions you may have about immigration matters, and hope to see you all in the fall.
All right, so a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. If you have a microphone, it will be muted for the session, so you won't need the microphone to ask us questions. What you will do instead is you're going to type in the question window. That's where you're going to type in the question. So what we will do today is we're going to do some presentation. You will see these PowerPoint slides going, and you will listen to us first. But at the end of the session, there will be plenty of time for you to ask questions. That's the time when you can ask your individualized questions about anything visa related, and we'll answer you. If you have a web camera, you can turn it off now. You are not going to be able to see us today. You're going to only hear our voice. So turn off the webcam. Use the chat window. If you have any questions or problem, type in the chat window and we'll let you know. All right, so we are going to get started with the immigration essentials.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the International Students Office and International Student Population at Columbia. So the International Students and Scholars Office, also known as ISSO, so please get used to hearing that since our name is very long, and we pretty much go by the ISSO. And our office is here to assist all international students and scholars, faculty members who come to Columbia to study, or if they're here for teaching positions. So we have a very huge population that we service. At Columbia, the international students make up almost 30% of the student population. Okay, we have over 13,000 our international community. Now, of that, the actual students last year that were enrolled, we had over 9,600 students. Over 3,000 were here under something called practical training, which means once you finished your program, a lot of students still stay on to study in the United States. And we are responsible for your, your time when you're here, since we have sponsored you to come to study. So it's a huge student population. Columbia College alone last year was 632 students, and in the School for Engineering and Applied Sciences, there was 314. And this year, we are working on a lot of processing a lot more documents for the incoming class. We're expecting more than 5,000 incoming students for this fall. Last year, there was a 10% increase from last year. So we are working very hard to make sure and prepare for your arrival. So what we're going to talk about for the next few slides is just some important documents and some terminology of things that you need to be aware of when you're dealing with immigration matters, with your visa. And just so you know, when you do arrive here in the fall, we will have an orientation at that time. So we will go through a lot of this again, but because it's very new for a lot of students, immigration world has its own terminology, it's a different language, and you have to try to understand a whole new language, really. So what I'm going to talk about today is just introduce you to certain documents that you should be aware of that are very important for you while you're going to be here in the U.S. And again, remember, a lot of this that I'm talking about is on our webpage. You may have seen it already, and you will get this presentation more in depth when you arrive here in the fall. So what important document one, of course, is your passport, and the certificate of eligibility, which we call the COE. If you're here coming as an F1 student, it's called an I-20 document, and most of you will have an I-20 document. If you're coming here as a J1, your document will be referred to as a DS 2019. We're going to talk about visas as well. And just to note, if you're a Canadian citizen, you would not have to worry about this since Canadian citizens don't need to apply for an F1 visa. And we'll also address the I-94 record. So if you have these documents, I would suggest, if you want to take them out to look at as we go over them, it may, make it easier for you as well. So the Form I-20, once you've been admitted to the school, you probably were told to contact the ISSO in order to get this document. And if most of you have already received your I-20, maybe some of you have just been applying and you're waiting for it to come, but I assure you we're working very hard to get these documents out to you. We have a team dedicated just creating these initial I-20 documents. So our office is working very hard to get over the maybe 5,000 students who may be coming this year to get their I-20s in time, so then you can take the next steps. Another important document that you want to look at is your visa. So once you've received your I-20 document, you then are able to go to the consulate, the U.S. consulate in your country, to apply for something called the F1 entry visa. Now, the visa is a document that allows you entry to the U.S. So you would go to your U.S. consulate or embassy, and it's always preferred that you're going to do this in your home country, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that you can't apply for this in another country, but it is preferred that it is done in the home country. But you are able to go to another country and apply, but you should always be aware of the worst case scenario would be if you go to another country and apply and for some reason it's denied, then you would have to go back home to apply from there. So it's best to apply in your home country. At the consulate, they're making sure that, since an F1 visa is for non-immigrant intent, you always have to prove that you have strong ties to your home country, that you're here coming to the U.S. for a specific purpose and going back home when you're done. So that's what a consular officer is going to look at. When you go to the consulate, you will have to take your I-20 document, your admission letter to the school, you have to show your funding. Just like the funding you showed us in order to get the I-20, you're going to show the consulate this funding as well to show how you're going to fund your education in the United States. Now, just a couple of things on the visa I'll point out. Once you get the visa, which is like a sticker or a stamp in your passport, we say, you want to make sure that it says the visa type, which is F1. Okay, on the right side, you'll see it circled F1. And then you'll see on the left there, under entries, you'll probably see the letter M for multiple, or you may see a number such as 1 or 2. And this means the number of times you're allowed to travel back and forth to enter the U.S. Okay, so most of you should have the letter M for multiple entries. And then there's the issue date of when the visa was issued and the expiration date. And you want to pay close attention to the expiration date because this date tells you the last day you're allowed to enter the United States. Okay, so some of you may have different lengths of your visa. You may have a 1-year visa, maybe you'll have a 5-year visa. It depends on what country you're from and what agreement the U.S. has with that country for the length. So, don't be concerned if your friend from another country has, a 1-year visa and you have a 5-year or something like that. That's okay. But it's important to know that that expiration date is the last day to enter the United States. Okay? So we're going to move on to the admission stamp. Now, as you're getting prepared to enter this summer, once you've received your I-20 and then you've gone to your consulate to apply for the F1 visa, and again, the visa, just remember, it varies by consular post how long it may take. So maybe it's going to take a couple of weeks in one country, another maybe a month or so. So you want to plan accordingly. But once you get that visa, then you want to obviously make sure you have your bags all ready to go and to make your flight to the United States. Now, when you arrive in the U.S., I should say to the airport, and most students do come through JFK or Newark, we've noticed, but you may be coming through other ports of entry. Whatever port of entry you come through at, you will be greeted by an officer from the Customs and Border Protection unit, and they will be looking at your documents. So you want to make sure that you have your I-20 present with your passport, and they were going to stamp your passport with the letters F1DS or J1DS, depending on your status. So you want to make sure that you see that. You only have a couple of minutes, of course, when you're at the airport with an officer, so it may feel very rushed, but to make sure you take a quick glance to make sure that it says F1DS or J1DS. And I will say this now, sometimes it's very hard to read their handwriting, but as long as you see some sort of scribble of something like F1DS, it should be good. You don't want to see a specific end date, because that would mean that you're only allowed to stay for a certain amount of time, but you do want to see F1DS, which stands for duration of status. And when you arrive here in the fall, we'll go over that more in depth at orientation. Okay, so once you've gotten your stamp, another important record is called the I-94, the arrival record. Now this I-94 you're only going to access this once you arrive onto U.S. soil. Once you've entered, through immigration, you've passed that, you've entered the United States, then you can go online to retrieve this record. So the I-94 record will show you what your status is in the U.S. So it's very important. And people sometimes don't understand why they need this form, but if you're going to seek any sort of benefit while you're in the United States, for example, like you want to work in the U.S., you do need to show an I-94 record that has your correct status. So it's a very simple thing to retrieve. It's all online. You would enter your information, as you can see. It asks for your name, your date of birth, passport number, as such. And then when you hit submit, it'll bring up your I-94 record, and you want to make sure it shows F1DS. So as long as you see the F1DS, that means everything is good to go. And if not, then you always would want to let us know so we can help you through that process. Okay? So those are the main documents that you want to be aware of before you come to the U.S. And we also here, there are some useful links that will be helpful to you as you prepare to come to the United States. If you haven't done so already, on the Columbia webpage, on the ISSO webpage, there is a link for incoming students that has a lot of information, not just visa related, but just student life here for international students, or just how to get around town. So please make sure you take a look at that. If you haven't applied for the I-20 yet, please make sure you go to the link there for the application, says for ABC I-20, to start that process, okay? Because we do need about 4 weeks to process documents. Because we have such a huge volume, it does take us time to sift through all the application requests, and we're doing our very best to get them out as fast as we can, because we do realize that you all need to do the next steps of going to a consulate, getting the visa, and that takes time. So please be rest assured that we are working hard to get those documents to you. One other thing, the I-901 fee. When you do get the I-20 from us, you'll get a checklist of next steps. And part of that will tell you how you have to pay this fee called the SEVIS fee. Okay? So you do need to pay that fee, and you will have to show proof of that when you go to the consulate, because they want to see that you have paid that fee. So you'll print out a receipt and take that with you. And you should always keep all these documents in a safe place, because you may need to, refer to them later on. Okay. Department of State, there is a link there for anything that's student visa related. Please feel free to check that out. The I-94, as I talked about earlier, and there is a check-in, an online check-in that we ask you to do once you arrive in the United States, and you want to make sure that you do that in a timely manner. And a couple of more useful links for you to know is for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, anything about your SEVIS record, which is where we create this I-20 document. It's a great tool for you to check out to get more information. I would look at that. And Study in the U.S. Is also put out by the Department of Homeland Security. So there's a lot of useful information there for you as you prepare to arrive. Okay, so some important things to remember. This happens a lot, we see from students, that they have all their documents, but they've packed it away so safely that when they get to the airport and the officer asks for their I-20 or any other supporting material, they don't have it with them. It's in their suitcase. So that is not where you want your documents to be. You want to make sure that you have them with you at all times for easy access, because you want to be able to make sure that you can present this to the officer and they will ask to see your I-20 and anything to show that you are going to be a student at Columbia. So what should you have, just as a reminder, at the port of entry? Of course, your passport. You want to make sure you have your I-20. The SEVIS fee, the I-901 receipt that shows that you did pay that fee. And any supporting documents, which shows that you're a student at Columbia, which would be your admission letter to the school, and any funding documentation like your bank statements to show how you're covering your expenses while you're in the United States. And once you do arrive, the most important thing to do is to make sure that you print out your I-94 record so you can have proof of what your status is in the United States. And as I said, since we create your records in this database called SEVIS, we do have to report your arrival. So please make sure that as soon as you arrive, you don't have to come to our office in person. This can be done online. And just make sure that you do this within 7 days of arrival. Okay, now for some reason your I-94 record, after you arrive, you notice doesn't say F1DS and you're unable to do the check-in online, then please feel free to contact our office so we can help you, rectify that. Okay, and here we have our contact information for our summer hours. We are open from Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays from 10:30 to 4. And for most of you, it's important to know our phone hours, which is from Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays 1 to 4. We're available for you to call us, but again, feel free to email us as well. And we have 7 advisors who are working with all the new students, and we'll make sure our best that we answer your question. We do ask that you please give us 5 business days, as we have a huge volume of requests and inquiries that come in day to day.
All right, so everybody has gotten a quick and dirty but important visa lesson now. Now we are going to move on to your life at Columbia, and that's what I do. So the ISSO, the International Students and Scholar Office, what their primary duty is to help everybody get in and be in compliance with whatever the United States government wants you to do in terms of staying in status. Okay, what my office does is nothing visa, but cultural and social support. So a lot of what we do is to provide programs, provide a home, provide places where you can connect with other international students and feel that you can, you belong at Columbia. So that's what the program is called International at Columbia. So the first thing we do, for a lot of you guys, you may know already, I oversee ISUP, International Student Orientation Program. So we're working very hard now to send you welcome letter if you have applied for ISUP. If you have not gotten a letter from us, do not panic. That just means that you have multiple choices when you apply for pre-orientation programs. Okay, so if you're somebody who applied for ISUP but put Q or co-op as your second or third choice, or you say, I want to go to co-op first, I want to do canoeing, but if it doesn't work, if I don't get in, I would like to go to ISUP. So you put multiple choices. If you are one of those people, you have not heard back from us, and that's normal. That just means that all the coordinators of the pre-orientation programs are working very hard right now to review your application, and you will hear back from us by the end of June, the latest. If you don't, feel free to email us. So one of the pre-orientation program that's specifically for international student is ISUP, International Student Orientation Program. So feel free to ask me questions about ISUP at the end of this webinar if you have any. This photo here are the orientation leaders from last year and the coordinators from last year. Some of them will be the orientation leaders for this year, so you will see them. They're also co-OLs. Okay, so what else do we do besides ISUP, especially after ISUP is over? I provide one-on-one support, so a lot of international students will come to me with questions about U.S. culture. Why does the professor do this? What is a take-home exam? What does it mean in the United States when they say X or Y? You know, why is class participation important? In my country, we never talk. All we do is we listen, we take notes, we study, we memorize everything, and we get good grades. But here, professors say something different. How do I do this? People have study groups. Should I join study group? So a lot of questions about U.S. culture, academic culture, or, you know, subway, the U.S. subway, especially New York one. It's so complicated. What do you mean by express and local? How do I go downtown? I want to go buy food from my country. Where do I go? So I try my best to answer those questions, and I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one to help you with your initial transition and beyond, not just initial transition. Afterwards, people might have some other questions. We also have break support activities because we understand that international students may or may not be able to go home during shorter breaks, like Thanksgiving or spring break. I know that a lot of you might be planning on going home during winter break, but Thanksgiving and spring break, you may be staying on campus. And you will see a lot of U.S. students just packing and leaving at your hall, and you're like, oh, what do I do now? So we provide activities. We feed you on Thanksgiving days. We have outings for you, and those are the things we do to help you make friends and feel and learn about the U.S. culture. So we also have programs that help you explore identity and bridge differences. For example, this is going to be our second year for Global Ambassador Program. It's a international friendship program where you can apply, you have to apply, and then what you will do is after you apply, if you do get selected, you get matched with a domestic American student if that's what your desire. So you get matched with somebody. You're going to be in ambassador groups to talk about important issues about diversity, about identity, about inclusion, about diversity in the US, about diversity in the world. So that's a platform for you to look at all these issues, to learn about the United States, learn about yourself, and learn about each other and the rest of the world. So that's another program that we do host. And all the programs I talk about now are free. So you're not paying for anything to join our break support program or to go on outings with us or do things. And then there's an International Student Advisory Board. We will be looking for 2 new board members who's incoming first-year student. So watch out for the recruiting email that will go out after you arrive on campus if you're interested in being on the International Student Advisory Board. So you saw the board member on our next slide. Those are the folks who are on the board for this past year, academic year 2015 to 16. And you see some of our activities on the bottom left. Those are folks from past year's ISUP. It's an ISUP reunion. And we have some dialogue and conversation programs. So those are some sort of the activities we do. Again, they're all free. They are not mandatory. So you can decide to opt in or not. It's all up to you. So moving on, this is something that's probably important. If you want to be connected to the international community at Columbia, especially to folks who are in undergraduate school at CC or Cs, this is the Facebook page that you want to visit. So this is where a lot of these activities that I talked about will be announced. So for example, in April, not too long ago, a couple months ago, we hosted an activity to see cherry blossom at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. It's all free. So you get your subway pass, you got your entrance ticket, all paid for, and you can go for an outing to see beautiful flowers. Okay, in the past, we have done Tenement Museum. We have done Lower East Side multicultural eating tours. So you go with us to explore New York City and eat at different neighborhoods. We went to Little Italy. We went to Chinatown. We went to a Jewish neighborhood. So all those activities for you to get to know the United States, particularly in New York City, are hosted by my office. How do you find out for those information? By visiting that Facebook page. So it will be helpful if you like our page so that you learn about all these free events that's coming up throughout the school year, as well as the Recruitment for Global Ambassador Program and International Student Advisory Board. So the URL is there. It's basically facebook.com/international@Columbia. One word. Okay, one word, international at Columbia. Okay, so now ISSO has done their part. I have talked about the program. It's time for questions. So if you have questions on your slide, you should see the question box right there, and you see this big red arrow there. That's where you type in your question, and we can kind of answer the question online real time for you. I see that there are a couple of questions already, so I'm going to hand the microphone over to Michelle again for the visa questions.
Okay, so I see the first question, where to get the SEVIS ID to finish the application. If you look at your I-20 document, I'm assuming you already have the I-20, it'll be on the top left corner with a letter N. So it starts with the letter N with and a number, and that would be your SEVIS ID number. Okay. Next. In terms of how long it takes to get the I-20, as I said before, our processing time is within 4 weeks. It may be less than that, but as I said, because we have such a huge volume over the summer, it does take us some time to get through all the requests. And when I say up to 4 weeks, it's for a complete application. Sometimes we're getting applications that are piecemeal and don't have all the parts for us to do our job. So if there is something missing from an application, we will be in touch with the student to let them know that we notice that you don't have this document or something is not clear, and give you a chance to respond and to provide us with that supporting documentation. Okay, let's see. For transfer students, if there are any students, now the way immigration defines a transfer student is a student who is in the United States currently studying at an institution, and then they will now be coming to Columbia. So that is considered a transfer. Maybe you finished a certain program there, or if you're coming here for just a semester, you do need to go through the same process in terms of getting I-20 from our office. So again, you would have to go to the link that we had mentioned before at issso.columbia.edu to apply for the I-20. And when you go there, there is information for transfer students to tell you what you should do and what form needs to be filled out by your current school in order for us to do our part. Okay. All right, let's see. So there's a question, do I need to pay the SEVIS fee again if I am a transfer student? Okay, good question. If you've already paid that SEVIS fee, no, you don't have to pay it again. That is only for on your initial, the first time that you get your I-20 document. So you should have proof of that. As I said, remember the I-901 fee receipt. You want to keep that for your records to show, yes, I've already paid this fee. So you don't have to pay that again. All right, let's go to another question. While applying for a visa, oh, sorry, I lost the question. One moment. Okay, so there's a question I see. Okay, while applying for a visa, will we have to show funds just for the first year of studies or for all 4 years? Okay, so when you're applying for the I-20, okay, document, you do have to show funding for the first year of study. And we do give you a checklist and we show you what are acceptable documents to show, but it's only for the first year that you have to show the funding. For the subsequent years, you would just have to explain how you plan to finance your education while here. So you don't have to show all 4 years at one time.
Okay, there's a question about International Student Advisory Board. Someone asked, what exactly does International Student Advisory Board do? Okay, so this is an advocacy board for international students, and you will hear a lot more about it after you arrive on campus. But if you would like to look for the information, you can go to the Columbia website, type in Columbia University, OMA, Office of Multicultural Affairs. Under that, you will see International at Columbia, and there is a page for International Student Advisory Board. International Student Advisory Board, what we also call ISAP, is an advocacy group that is made up of, last year was 8 international students from both CCNCs, all 4 years. That's why we are recruiting first year. And they work with another administrative team called IRT, the International Resource Team. And the IRT is made up of administrators at Columbia who work closely with international students. So there are people from, for example, Center for Career Education, CSA, Center for Student Advising, of course ISSO, because they do work with international students, International Student Scholars Office, and also there are other offices. So what ISAP does is they advise the administrators in terms of the needs and provide feedback to administrators. For example, they may say, hey, ISSO is really, really far away. Is it possible, since there are so many of us, during the time before winter break when we need travel signature, can you guys come to a more convenient location to sign our I-20? So ISSO says, yes, we heard you, great, we will come so that you can get your I-20 signed. So basically you advocate for international students for their need during their time at Columbia. We did also 2 years ago did a survey and asked international students, what exactly do you need? By putting out a questionnaire. And that questionnaire was drafted by both ISAP, the advisory board, and the IRT member. We look at it, we're going to send out a survey again. So the break support that you heard about during Thanksgiving break or spring break came from that survey. A lot of international students told us that that's a time when we're really homesick. That's a time that we really need support because there's no classes anymore. There's no exam, and we're extremely lonely and we have nothing to do. So we heard you. That's how we create these short-term break support program. So that's in essence what ISAP does. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. Let's see if we can get more questions. Okay, I'm currently on a B2 visa. Uh, will the student visa affect this?
Okay, so you may have different visa stamps in your passport, but remember, when you enter the U.S., you can only hold one status. And you want to make sure that if you're coming here to study, that you come as an F1 student. So you may have a B2 visa stamp in your passport and maybe have another page with an F1 visa stamp. You always want to show the officer at the airport your F1 visa page along with the I-20. And with those two, they will know that you're here to enter you as an F1. So please do not come in as a tourist. You want to make sure every entry into the United States is F1. And for the new students who will be starting this fall, please keep in mind that you're only allowed to enter the U.S. before the program of study within 30 days. Okay? If for some reason you want to come before that time, you could come as a tourist or on another status, but then will have to leave and then re-enter as F1 before you begin study. So this is very important. A lot of students think they can come here early as a tourist and then just stay. No, you must enter as an F1 student before you begin your full-time study at Columbia. Okay. Question about Canadians, do they have to go to their consulate to apply for a visa? So right, if you're a Canadian citizen, you do not need to apply for a visa. This is only for Canadians. You will just at the border, depending if you come by land border or by air, you will just need to present your I-20 document and your receipt for the payment for the SEVIS fee, and maybe your admission letter or funding, depending if they ask for that. But you do not need a visa in order to come in if you're a Canadian citizen. All right. There's a question, when will visiting students receive their I-20? And we need to provide any supporting documents. So again, you do need to apply for an I-20. You would have to go to the link we mentioned before to start that process. And again, as I said, it probably take within 4 weeks to receive the I-20. Okay.
Okay, here's a question about ISUP. So I have not applied for ISUP. Will I be missing out in some important information if I don't attend ISUP but attend the 1-week orientation after ISUP? Okay, that's a very good question. First of all, the 1-week orientation after ISUP is called NSUP, International Student Orientation, New Student Orientation Program. Sorry, New Student Orientation Program. That's the orientation program for all incoming students, whether international or not. So everybody needs to be in NSUP. If you decided that you don't want to do ISUP, there are going to be sessions specifically for international students doing NSUP. So if you have not applied for ISUP, watch out for those sessions. Okay, you must go to those sessions because one of them will be visa check-in with the ISSO, and that's something that's really, really important. So you will miss out a bit of the social components of it because people do get together doing ISUP, but you're not going to miss out on all the important information. All the very important information will be repeated during NSUP. So I hope you answered that. I answered that question. So the next question is, will ISSO get in touch with me within 4 weeks processing period to confirm that my application is complete?
Okay. So once you receive a complete application, we're processing, and then you'll get an email when the I-20 is ready. If, however, there is something missing, we will be in touch with you to request that additional information. But I would say this, if more than 4 weeks have passed and for some reason you haven't heard from us at all, feel free at that point to contact our office to inquire about your documents. But we do ask that if it's been less than 4 weeks, we really appreciate if you would just wait for the time frame, just because we have such a huge volume. It kind of slows down the process. If every call we get is, where are we in the where you applicate the status inquiry. So we do ask to please give us the 4 weeks of processing time, but it definitely, if it's been more than 4 weeks and you have not heard from our office, then feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so there's a question. I'm a transfer student and I sent out my transfer out request to my school. However, my DSO replied that we do not transfer students' records in active status if the student is outside the U.S. In this case, you should re-enter the U.S. with an initial I-20 submitted by your new school. I would advise you to contact Columbia regarding their advice on obtaining proper documentation for your re-entry to the U.S. But right now I'm in another country. What should I do? Okay, so if you are if you were here at an institution but your school will not transfer your record, you will need to apply for a new initial I-20 from our office. So same procedure. You go to issa.columbia.edu and submit all the information so we can get an I-20 out to you. You do provide us a mailing address, so whatever address you give us, that is where we will send the document. And then you will enter with that new I-20. All right. Let's see. There's a question. As a visiting student from Germany, do I need F1 or J1? Or is there another, since my stay in the U.S. will be limited to 1 semester, approximately 5 months? Okay. Even for visiting students, again, please understand the F1 status and J1 student status is for a full-time study. This means that you're coming here to study full-time, which is defined at Columbia as 12 credits a semester. So even if you're here for 1 term, you still need to apply for this document in order to be here in valid status. So yes, you will apply for an I-20, and I would say the majority of students will be applying for F1. Unless you're here sponsored by maybe the Fulbright program or your country's government or something, maybe you'll come as J1. It all depends on the source of funding. But the majority of our students do come here as F1. And if you do have any particular question about that, feel free to email us at the ISSO so we can look at your individual case. All right. There's another question. I have a Jamaican and a Guyanese passport. Does it matter which passport I put the visa in? The Guyanese one has a B2 visa currently, but is expired for now. If I need to transfer my F1 visa status from another university, oh, is that another question? Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, let's go back to, so you have a Jamaican and a Guyanese passport. Now, a lot of our students have dual citizenship, and they may have, more than one passport. You do want to be consistent. When you fill out the application for an I-20, you do indicate your country of citizenship. And whatever you do indicate to us, please make sure that you use that passport for everything you do. You would, if you're, for example, going to use your Jamaican passport, then, be consistent with that. But, you can't go back and forth because I-20 is capturing just one citizenship, and it should match. The passport you use should match with what is indicated on the I-20 document. So please stick to one, whichever one you prefer. Okay. Sorry, so the next question is, if I need to transfer my F1 visa status from another university, do I need to travel abroad to apply for another visa before I come to Columbia? Okay, so that sounds like you're here maybe as a student at another school, and you may already have a valid F1 visa stamp in the passport. If that is the case, and you're going to now come to Columbia, you do not need to get a new F1 to match the school. So the important thing is to see the expiration date of your current visa. If it's valid at this time, you can still, use that visa, even though you may have an I-20 from us, and the visa stamp has an annotation of a different school's name. That is okay. You do not have to leave the United States. If you're a transfer student, you may have finished at a school right now, you're here for the summer, and now you're going to start here at Columbia. That's okay to remain in the United States until you start classes. But if you do leave the United States, just remember, every time upon entry back into the United States, you need to make sure that you have your valid passport, F1 entry visa, and the I-20 document. And that is the key thing. Okay. Another question here is, do you have to apply for the I-20 every year, or is there one for all 4 years? Okay, good question. If you, for those of you who have your I-20, you can look at that and see there's a section that says the length of time. So depending on the program you're in, and for most of you it'll be 4 years, it already will say the start date for this fall, and it'll be good for 4 years. So you don't have to have an I-20 for each year. You have one I-20 that captures the length of time for your program. All right, do I need to show the officer my I-20 every time I arrive at the passport? I mean at the airport, sorry. Yes, you do. Every time you enter the U.S. at the port of entry, you must have your documents, original documents. So you want to, that's why I said make sure that you have these documents on you. So you want to have the passport and the I-20 so you can present that, and so the officer knows that you're entering the United States in F1 status. Okay. All right, so where we sent an admission letter, I have not received a formal letter via mail or email.
Well, that's a question that most students do get some form of official congratulations and admission letter. So if you do not have that, what you want to do is contact the undergraduate admissions office so that you can have that information. And Michelle, is it true that if they don't have the letter, they should get it before they come to the country? Do they need that document?
It's best to have the letter or something from the school that it says that you've been admitted. Sometimes people have like an email correspondence, they're told, or an official letter. So something to show that yes, you have been accepted to Columbia would be best to have with you.
All right, good. We have the next question. If I listed only ISUP as my pre-orientation program and I haven't received an email confirming my space, should I email ISUP? Well, the other group that we have not sent welcome email is the group of students asked for financial aid, a reduced fee. So if you listed ISUP as your only choice, however, you ask us for a reduced fee, we are currently in the process of checking with the financial aid office. That's why you have not gotten a response from us. If you apply for ISUP, did not ask for a reduced fee, and did not get an email from us, you should email us now, because all the students who did not ask for financial aid and apply for ISUP only should have gotten a welcome email from us already. So depending on your status, you will know whether you need to email us or not. Let's move on to the next question about I-20.
Okay, so I submitted a complete application for the I-20 4 weeks and 2 days ago, but I haven't heard from the office regarding the status. Does it take longer than 4 weeks sometimes? Unfortunately, that may be true. As I said, we have a huge volume. We're doing our best to keep things within the 4-week time period, but it has happened. And so, as I said, if it has taken more than 4 weeks, feel free to email the ISSO to inquire about the application at ISSO@columbia.edu, and so we can take a look at that. But we're doing our best, and it may be even being worked on right now as we speak. I'm not sure, but we do have our team very dedicated to try to get those out to you. Okay, my passport will only be issued by June 15th. What can I do before I have a new passport? Well, in terms of applying for the I-20, whatever you have right now, please give us that information. While you're applying, if your passport changes, that's okay. The passport number is not captured on the I-20, so it's not something that will be, listed there. But when you arrive in the U.S., you can always update your information with us, so that's fine. So next question is, for the F-1 visa, are we able to return to U.S. if the F-1 visa is still valid? If so, what kind of documents are we supposed to bring, like the I-20 from Columbia or I-20 from an old school, or grade report as well? Okay. So this is in terms of travel to the U.S. So when you do come to the United States, again, at the port of entry, you want to always make sure you have your most recent I-20, which should be from Columbia, if you're attending Columbia, with your valid passport and valid F-1 entry visa. So these are documents, you will hear us say this time and time again. Whenever you come to our office, you always are supposed to bring these to us. Whenever you enter the country or traveling internationally, always important to have your original documents, your I-20, passport, and visa valid at all times. All right. Another question is, I've already paid my CVIS fee, but my I-20 has expired. Do I need to pay it again? I'm not sure if I'm clear on the question. Your I-20 if an I-20 has expired, I would suggest that maybe you want to email ISSO about your specific case, because this is for new incoming students, and I'm assuming this is your first time coming here. You would have, needed to pay the CVC. But if you're a transfer student, which it sounds like maybe that is the case, then you have to request a new I-20 from us as a transfer student. And if you're a transfer student, if you've paid the fee already, there is no need to pay the CVIS fee again. Okay. Another question is, are international students eligible for on-campus jobs and internships? All right. Then my brief answer to that is, for on-campus jobs, it is possible to do. When you all do arrive here, we'll have an orientation for you where we'll cover employment, and we'll go over what you need to be aware of as an F1 student and what you're allowed to do. So I don't want to do a whole employment workshop right at this moment, but just so you know briefly, it is possible. You are allowed to work on campus with certain documentation, and we'll definitely go over that while you're here. Okay. Next, another question is, what are the employment restrictions of a student visa? Am I able to work on campus and off? So as I said before, In general, the answer is yes, but there are certain authorizations and documentation that's needed, and we will have extensive employment workshops on campus in the fall. So please make sure you attend those.
So those employment workshops are going to be extremely important after you come on campus. So don't worry about employment right now. And just so that everybody knows, there's also another office called CCE, Center for Career Education. If you go to CCE's website, there's a tab that's specifically for international students. So if you want to educate yourself about options, about some of the visa stuff, about what employer has sponsored international students in the past, if you have nothing to do in the summer and you want to find out, CC's website is a great place to go. But rest assured that we will teach you a lot more about your employment status, about whether you're eligible to work or not while you're in the United States. This information will be given to you multiple times during the semester.
All right, so next question we have is, what do we need to do when our visa expires? Can we renew our visa in the US, or do we have to go back? Okay, good question. The visa, if it's expired, this visa can only be obtained outside the United States at a US consulate abroad. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is usually done in your home country. It's preferred that it's done in the home country, but you can apply for a visa at any U.S. consulate overseas. A lot of students, would like to get it done while they're in the United States, but unfortunately that cannot be done while you're here. It can only be done outside the U.S. One important thing to note about that is if the visa expires while you're here as a student, please know that it is still okay to remain here and continue your studies. The only time that visa expiration date is going to affect you is if you actually leave the United States. So if you are here and for the summer and the visa is expired, you can still remain here and continue classes the next term. But if you leave the United States, then upon entry back to the U.S., you want to make sure that you have a valid F1 visa.
All right, the next question has to do with applying for ISUP again. So I applied to ISUP only yet. Okay, still haven't gotten a notification email. Email us, okay? If that's the case, email us at isup@columbia.edu. That's ISOP@columbia.edu, okay? Email us and we'll get back to you. Okay, the next question has to do with combined plan students.
Okay, so I'm a combined plan student coming from another college in the United States. This summer I will be doing research work here at my home institution and thus cannot request a transfer out until mid-end of July when I leave the U.S. Will I be able to obtain an I-20 from Columbia before I re-enter in August? Yes, that you will. We are working all summer long getting the I-20s, and we have students who with late release dates, transfer dates, so they may not be released to us until early August or mid-August, and that's okay. We cannot create an I-20 until we have received the information. So if you're currently at an institution, your current school must release your SEVIS information to us so we can create the I-20. Once they have done that, then we have access to the record. Only one school has access to this information, so we can definitely do that in early August. Okay. Next question is, are there eligible off-campus jobs and internships? Again, we are definitely going to have workshops. This is something that we will cover while, once you're here. We don't really want to go too much in depth because it's a pretty long topic to discuss, but there may be possibilities, and again, as Chia-Ying had mentioned with the Career Center or Center for Career Education, you would probably want to work with them as well to see what type of positions are there. Okay. Next question is, if a transfer student apply an initial I-20 again, do I have two SEVIS numbers? Okay. So if you're a transfer student, we're going to keep the same SEVIS number. and we're just transferring your information from one school to another. So you will only have one CVIS number. All right. Okay. Let's see the next question. Are there some pointers I need to keep in mind during my visa interview with the consulate officer, other than showing intent in coming back to my country after my education? Everyone's experience at the consulate is going to be different, depending on what questions the officer may ask. The best thing is to be truthful, to show what it is, what is your intention for coming here, what is your purpose. That's what they're looking at. They may ask, what are your ties to your home country? What are your plans after? But, I would say just, see what the officer asks, and accordingly you will, answer. Okay. Another question is, I'll be a visiting student at Columbia next fall, and I'm completing the I20 application. How should I fill the question, which subject will you study if I'm planning to take courses in different fields? What about the for which degree are you a candidate question? Should it be filled with non-degree or undergraduate? Okay, good. For visiting students, you may see that you don't fall under any specific option on the drop-down menu there. So you can, indicate in terms of what subject you'll be studying. There is a remark section on the application, so feel free to explain anything that you may feel is not very clear in what you have indicated in the previously in the application, and you can say that I'm here as a visiting student and I'll be here for just a semester, and that's fine. So feel free to use the remark section. Okay, next question is, how far in advance do we usually have to issue a meeting with the local U.S. Embassy? Can those meetings be handled online or over the phone, or do we have to go to the embassy in person? Does the embassy issue the visa right away, or does it take time? If so, is there an average time period the embassy needs to issue the visa? Okay, so in terms of the, making appointments with your embassy or consulate, U.S. consulate abroad, this will vary by post in terms of how long it'll take for them to process or when you can make an appointment. The summer is a busy time in general. You can check with the Department of State's webpage to look at the visa processing wait times by post. You'll put in the city and it'll tell you it's taking 2 weeks or it's taking a month. So that gives you an idea of how long it may take to get the F1 visa. So, definitely want to plan ahead, but you also have to be aware that you cannot do the visa appointment until you have received the I-20 from us, because you will need that information. So it does get a little hectic in the summer, as a lot of things are happening. You want to get the I-20, you want to make your appointment, and again, it can vary, the wait time. So you need to be patient, and please remember, things may be delayed. Sometimes there are security checks, and that may take several weeks, and we cannot do anything about that. Unfortunately, we just have to wait. But once, as soon as clearance is done, you will get your visa, and then you're able to come to the U.S. All right. Another question is, I emailed my documents of applying for I-20 like a month ago. When should I get my I-20 or get feedback? Okay, so again, the 4 weeks is our processing time, and feel free, if it's been more than 4 weeks, to reach out to us by email to inquire about your application. Okay, next question. When filling out information for the I-20, I was asked about my major. Can I eventually change majors while I'm at Columbia, or is the major I filled in mandatory? All right, great question. It is not mandatory. We just want to have a sense of what you are planning to study here. Definitely, Columbia College students, in your first couple of years, you'll be trying out different courses and classes, and you're allowed to change majors. So that's okay if your major changes along the way. It really is important towards the end of your studies that when you finish your program, we want to make sure we've captured, the most recent major at that time. Okay.
All right, the next two questions are all about ISUP. I have applied for ISUP, but afraid that I won't make it on time due to the amount of time visa process will take. Will I miss out on anything that NSUP won't cover? Well, you're going to be okay as long as you make it for NSUP. I would say if you apply and you absolutely know that you're not going to make it to ISUP, you want to email us and let us know. So we're not expecting you, so we don't get your t-shirt and all that stuff. But there are orientation leaders around during NSUP to help you. And you can always reach out to ISUP after ISUP is over if there's anything that you kind of didn't know, need help with. The ISUP orientation leaders are also working during NSUP. So there's a whole bunch of friendly people who's, around during NSUP to help you if you didn't get a chance to do ISUP. So don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And the other question is, I just carelessly missed the deadline of applying for ISUP. So is it okay to attend NSUP only? Yes, it will be okay. There are going to be sessions for international students during NSUP. Not a lot, but most of the important things are going to be covered again. So just come to NSUP. Again, ISUP OLs are happy to help you. You can always reach out to isup@columbia.edu, and that's something that's, the email that you can use. Even ISUP is over, because I can always send an ISUP OL to help you with stuff that you need. Okay, so do not worry about that. We get a question that's from a international MS student. I assume that this is a master's student. International master's students will be provided temporary accommodation for a few weeks until we find your lease and your apartment off campus. Well, we here at Multicultural Affairs, we only work with undergraduate CC and C students, so this is a question that's most appropriate for the graduate school that you are going. Maybe contact the office of that individual graduate school and see what they said about housing accommodation. And okay, this is next question. This is not exactly related, but I saw briefly on Facebook group that you already start planning for your courses. I went to days on campus. People told me that you don't need to start registering for courses. Okay, so this is a course registration question. You will be connected with your advising deans soon. Not now, but toward the end of the summer. So do not worry about classes. If you are going to be in ISUP, there are going to be designated time during ISUP that you will be meeting with your advising dean, your assigned advisor, to figure out your classes. If you are not in ISUP, you will be doing that in NSUP. So do not worry. You all will be meeting with your advising dean very, very soon, as soon as you arrive, really, within a week or so. And they will give you all the information needed for course registration. So do not worry about course registration right now. I know that there are a lot of conversation in class of 2020 Facebook group about registering for courses. What should I do? Should I take this one? What about this professor? Is it easy or hard? I mean, there are going to be a lot of discussion, but the best thing to do is to hold on for a bit, enjoy your summer, and when your advising dean reach out to you, respond to their email so that you can set up a time to talk, okay? That's the way for you to get most accurate and timely information about your course registration. Okay, so the next question is, again, about visa. So this PR question.
Okay, I'm a PR, permanent resident in Canada, but a Chinese citizen. If I apply for the visa in Canada, will there be an extra delay? Okay, the Vancouver Embassy says that students' visa processing time is 3 days. Would this be longer for me? I really don't know the processing time. It depends on each post, where you're going. So please check with them to see what they're saying. If that's what they, if that's what their processing time is, then it should be. It should be that. It shouldn't be anything longer. But yes, you do need to get a visa. Okay.
The next question asks, okay, when should I start registering for classes? Again, this is really a CSA question, but if you see in your chat window, there's a link posted for you, your academic planning guide. Okay, click on that link. Study that link. There are going to be a lot of very helpful information in there in terms of the class registration. How is it going to be like for you during your next 4 years, whether you're a CC or a C student? So a lot of these questions will be answered in the academic planning guide, or by reaching out to your advising dean. You are not going to be assigned one until later this summer. So do not panic. Everybody gets an advising dean, and they will reach out to you when it's time. Okay. Okay. When and how should I buy medical insurance? Now, all international students, actually all students at Columbia, there's a link that we can provide you with all the FAQs about health insurance, and it will be posted in the chat window. So look out for that. We'll post the link for insurance question. Any other questions? We got a lot of very good questions about visa. Oh, there's another one that just came in. Okay. Is the transfer in form required when I send the necessary document to ISSO to get the new I-20?
Okay, yes. As a transfer student, that transfer form does need to be filled out by your current institution in order for us to do our part. So please make sure you send that with your application.
Okay, that's the last question we have so far. Anybody has any more questions? Feel free to type in the question window. We're going to hang for another minute or so. If we see more questions, we'll continue to answer your question. If not, just so that we're the last couple of questions coming in, if you want to see the contact information, again, this is the contact information for ISSO. So, because somebody just typed in a question, if I want to contact you for a specific personal question, what number should I call? It depends on what kind of question it is, okay? So I'm going to go over the contact right now. If it is visa-related question, your I-20, your visa, your anything transfer in question, all those questions go to ISSO, and now on the slide you should see their summer hours, where they're located, their phone number, their website, their emails are all there. If it is non-visa question, that's how you contact me. If it is ISUP specific question, you email us at isup@columbia.edu. For other programming question for international student, not about ISUP, you email us at international@columbia.edu. So those are the contact information that you can reach out to us if you have additional question. Okay. The best way to reach out to International at Columbia is by email, not by calling, because we assume that there may be some sort of time zone difference. So it will be hard for us to be at the phone answering your call while you are available to call us. So the best way is to email. Okay, can I please have an email to send for funding letter? Not sure if that's okay.
Okay, so again, when you're applying for the I-20, at the link of issa.columbia.edu, all the information is there of what to send in. We cannot, unfortunately, do piecemeal. Sometimes students want to send like a letter in advance and say, can you please look at this and see if it's okay. Unfortunately, we are not able to do that, given the high volume of requests that are coming in. We do say the best way is to please submit what you have. And if for any reason, when it's reviewed, if we have any question, we will be in touch by email for further clarification. So please send whatever documents you have, and if there's anything more, we'll be in touch by email.
Okay. Yeah. So someone just type in and say that there's a connection issue, but wants to make sure that the question is answered. So what can I do before my passport is ready?
Right. So again, with whatever current passport you have now, feel free to submit that information. And once you get the new passport, you can update us, at a later time or when you arrive.
Okay. Is there any possibility to live on campus for undergraduate visiting students? I believe so. This is a question that you want to reach out to housing and ask the question. The housing information, contact information will be typed in the chat box for you. Okay, there's another visa question coming.
Okay. Let's see. So if I want to attend Columbia in early September and I receive my I-20 in early mid-July, is that enough time to apply for a student visa? Again, it depends on, where you're applying, at what post. It should be, the summer is a very busy time all over the world, as a lot of students are trying to do this at their respective U.S. consulates. So you want to just check with your local U.S. consulate where you're planning to go to see what their processing time is. We don't have any say in that matter. All we can say is, you cannot come until you have that F1 visa. So hopefully you get it in time before class starts. If for some reason it's delayed, then please make sure you're in touch with your school, with Chia-Ying here, to let her know what your plans are. And that has happened in the past, but it's the best just to keep in touch and let us know, where things stand.
Okay, we get the next question. It's a crossover question for ISUP and F1 visa. So should I pay the ISUP participation fee before I receive the F1? Well, here's what I will recommend. Okay, you should pay for the ISUP participation fee, and we should expect you unless something goes wrong. Very, very rarely, it does happen sometimes, that people pay for the fee and then they email us at the end, like the week before ISUP, and say, hey, I'm not ready to go to the US because there's something that takes more time for my F1. I'm not able to make it to ISUP. I possibly will be able to make it to NSUP. Just email us, let us know at that time. If it is truly a visa question, we'll refund you the fee. So do not worry, just pay for the fee now. Get ready, do everything that you need to do to get all your documentation in order and apply for your F1 ASAP as soon as you get your I20. So that's something that's really important. Like, do not wait until the last minute. That's something that's really important. Just get started with the process, because sometimes it does take a while to get the visa. So if you get started early, it's always the best practice. But remember, you are only allowed to come in 30 days before school starts as an F1. So, sometimes we have students who plan ahead and really far ahead and want to come early. And you can, but you will have to come in as, a tourist and then later come in as an F. So that's something that's just good to keep in mind. Other questions? I think we have answered all the questions now. Again, I'm going to put the ISSO information because it looks like a lot of questions today has to do with the visa. So those are their contact information. Just please, please, please be patient. ISSO is working very, very hard to send you all the things you need in order for you to come in. If you wait for 4 weeks and really there's nothing going on and you didn't get, an email or whatever, then, call them or email them. Other questions? We're going to wait for 1 more minute. For transfer student, okay. What is the last day we can do a transfer out and still get the I-20 from Columbia in time?
Okay, good question. So there's not necessarily a last day. You really want to speak with your current institution to see what, when they're willing to release you. We'll be working with students till, up to the start of classes. You do want to be here for classes in early September. So anything up until then, I would just say please make sure you be in touch with your current school, and then be in touch with our office to let us know, what the current update is. So if it's going to be late August or something, we'll work with that, but please make sure all your other documentation that you submit is in order.
All right. So just to get back to the question that before somebody asked about visiting students and housing, the answer is posted in the chat window. So housing is not guaranteed for visiting students, although we will try our best to accommodate visiting students. How do I request a link for I-20 again? Could you? Oops. There we go.
All right, so that link again is you're going to ISSO.columbia.edu. And there's a lot of information there in terms of how to apply for the I-20, what type of funding is acceptable, the processing time, how to get it mailed to you. So please take the time to read through everything that's there, because I think a lot of the questions that are here will be answered as well. So again, that link is ISSO.columbia.edu.
Okay, any final questions? Looks like a lot of very good questions. All questions has been answered. Okay, So again, I'm going to go back to the contact information. If you have questions, feel free to contact us. Okay. So here's the ISSO contact information again, just in case if you have more visa questions that is not answered today during the webinar. All right, looks like we got nobody else. All right, so well, thank you all for attending the webinar. We look forward to welcoming you in August, whether you're coming to ISUP or NSUP. We will see you soon, and good luck packing and enjoy the summer. If you have questions, you know where to find us. So we're here working the entire summer, so we will be answering your question by phone or email. All right, well, thank you so much for participating. Good luck and enjoy the summer. We're going to end the webinar now.